and this is Tripp's Take. Always good to have you with us on Spotify for podcasters. If you listen to the podcast, it's where we've been since we started. We also now are doing video on Spotify for podcasters, and you can find us on YouTube. Just do a search for Tripp's Takes, and you should be able to find it. My channel on YouTube is TR Radio Dude. But again, if you do a search for Tripp's Take, you should be able to find it. We're posting them there every week. It'll drop the same time as this podcast. So a little plug there. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on and what has been going on. And I go back to something that I've discussed a bunch of times. Movies. Going to the movies. Now, this weekend, I said to my fiance, Sandy, I said, hey, let's go to the movies. Let's see A Haunting in Venice. I mean, it's an Agatha Christie movie. Kenneth Branagh has done a great job as Hercule Poirot over the course of, this is now the third movie they have done. And I thought it would be interesting, but, you know, Murder on the Orient Express, I remember seeing as a kid. Death on the Nile, I think was, and I'm pretty sure was done in the 70s, and it's a remake of a movie. But this was, A Haunting in Venice was the first time I think it was done on film, although I'm probably wrong. I could be wrong. But the movie itself just didn't do a whole lot for me. And one of the problems I had with it is it just really bordered on, I mean, it was not your typical whodunit. It really was out there, shall we say. And at the end of the movie, Sandy and I looked at each other and we're like, huh? But that's not why I want to bring up the movies. I want to bring it up because the cost of going to a movie, while it's a great experience, and you know, we go to a theater here in Savannah called NCG, and they've got the reclining seats, and they got the fresh popcorn, and you know, they've got the Coke freestyle drink, you know, machines and stuff. You can even get beer if you want to, or alcoholic beverages. They sell them too. But the thing about going to the movies is, I think with the pandemic, people have just gotten out of the habit. And we were there on a Saturday night, 7:00. That was, you know, prime time. And the theater, I want to say, wasn't even half full. Now, is it speaking more towards the fact that, you know, people are being very selective, or is it also speak to the fact that the movie quality, you know, are there really that many movies that people want to see? Habits change over the years. And we were talking about this because when I came down here in 2018, I would go to the movies at least once a week because there was always a movie I wanted to see. And we were also members of the AMC A-list package where you got to see at least 3 movies in a week, up to 3 movies a week the entire month. And you'd go to 2 or 3 movies a month and it would pay for itself. I mean, that's cool. But then as time went on and the more disgusted I became with the local AMC theater, and the more, I don't say disgusted, but I would say the more distressed I was with it and the more disillusioned I was with it, I stopped going to the movies. I got out of that habit. Now, I'm a guy who used to drive an hour and a half to go to a theater to see a movie in reclining seats because we didn't have one close to me. And then, you know, when I was able to only drive 45 minutes, I was excited about that. But my movie viewing habits have just absolutely changed completely. And even now, while the big screen really is a cool thing to see, and some movies, you got to see them in theaters. Top Gun Maverick is a perfect example of a movie you've got to see in theaters. Oppenheimer this year, saw that in IMAX, and it was great. But for most movies, do I really need to go to a theater? I can watch it on the 55-inch TV. And that's the problem with the pandemic. People's habits have changed. The other part of the problem is the cost of going to movies. Now, it's not so much the ticket price, but the cost of refreshments. You know, it was $27 for us to get popcorn, 2 sodas, and there's a candy thing too. This was a special. But the cost of the refreshments just off the charts. And for a family of 4, I mean, with kids, oh my God, I can't believe it. And it's just, it's really tough. And I think that's part of the problem. The movie theaters, I mean, I understand that where they make their money is on their refreshments, but come on, man, you got to think about what's going on. The price of that stuff is just off the charts, completely off the charts. And that's one of the reasons why, we've cut back on the movie habit, really have. Want to mention a couple of TV shows. I've mentioned Only Murders in the Building because they are now getting to the point where the season interesting. You can catch up on Hulu. Martin Short and this year Rudd, Meryl Streep is in it. Really good stuff, and I do recommend that. Also, just morning show that for Aniston show really is. I mean, Billy Crudup is some. They got, if you would like to see, and kind of takes you behind the scenes too. That's part of it. And if you remember, this show when it aired, played on storyline at Lauer, and they were developing the show when that story broke, and it was just amazing the parallels you have. It was about a morning show, and on the show, Mitch Kessler was the star, and he was the disgraced anchor. And of course, in the second season, he was killed in the car crash while he was overseas. Again, I do recommend the show. It is on Apple TV Plus, and you can also, if you sign up, you can, they've got iPhones out, so you can get in quickly into my last thing. You talk about the new iPhone 15 is out. Apple announcing that. They also announced the new Apple Watch that just came out, and watch iOS 17. And I got it really done with the operating system. Watch is really good too. I love the new watch face that they debuted with that. But let's talk about the iPhones. And they announced the new iPhones. And I was kind of like, do I really want to? I don't know. Well, folks, I went in with both feet and I got a new iPhone. Now, I had gotten a 13 in January of 2022. I love my iPhone 13, but the deal offering for trade-ins really, if you have not gone into the member 55%. And I know some people who have Androids and they swear by Androids and stuff like that. But I got to tell you, my iPhone, I love it. I'm excited. I'm going to get the big size for the iPhone Pro Max. However, I had to order it, so it's not going to be here for a while. I wasn't one of the first ones to buy it, and that's fine. I'm not in a hurry. My phone's working fine, and I'm not going to worry about that. But again, something you want to check into. And if you are an iPhone or an Apple Watch user and you've not downloaded the iOS, the new iOSs, I would recommend you do so. I think you're going to enjoy some of the changes. I already love the way they've changed the call screen. Moved it now to the bottom of the screen, and it really is. And they've done some into iPhones. Mac. great email. It's a daily email, and it lines and give you a run. OS 17. It's a 10 if I'm not. And that's going to Tripp's take Thursday. Oh man, September is just flying by. September the 21st, 2023. I have to look at my calendar so I remember what it is, because this month is just flying by. I mean, I can't believe what are we, 3 months away from Christmas? Jeez. Love to hear your comments and questions about my podcast. You can email tripstake@gmail.com. Fantasy football players, the Hall of Famer Mike Sheck and I are back with another edition of Fantasy Sultans. Give you Spotify for podcast to for the Fantasy Sultans. 80s, powered by Live 360. Tripp Rogers. Thanks for listening and watching, and make it a great one.